So, today I already gave away the content of this video with the title and the thumbnail. So let's get straight to it. What's in my camera bag? I actually feel pretty excited about making this video because it's almost like unveiling my dirty little secrets. Anyway, I said I'd get straight to it, so let's do this. I'll try to keep it short, but there's a lot to talk about. So, stay with me and let's go. Obviously, I can't talk about what's in my bag without first introducing the bag. Or, actually, the bags. I'm always looking around for a good bag that fits all my needs, and I bought plenty in the past. So many that I actually have a sort of embargo at home, because there's just no room left to buy another one. But I now managed to reduce the count to 3 bags. One everyday carry and travel, one camera bag, and one professional, sort of, which also doubles as travel bag sometimes. So let's start in reverse order and start with the Pro bag, which is the... Ooh, wow! I should have emptied it first. So, it is the Peak Design 20 liters. Now, I have a sort of love-hate relationship with this bag. I love pretty much all that the guys at Peak Design do, and I even backed some of their projects on Kickstarter, including this bag. And it is a fantastic bag, and if I had to mention one feature that I absolutely love about it, it's the balance. I can fit 10 kilograms of gear in this bag, and don't feel any of it when I put it on my shoulders. The first time I tried, I wouldn't believe it. It's incredible. The way this bag is balanced is absolutely fantastic. Now, of course, if you put 10 kilograms of gear in a bag, it's still bad for your back, but at least you don't get tired very early, because this is very, very well balanced. Also, the side pockets are very elastic, and they can fit bottles, tripods, and all that you want to put in them. They can take quite large items. But this is a camera bag, and as a camera bag, it sucks a bit. First of all, it's quite stiff and doesn't really expand, which is a positive when you travel because it fits very easily under the seat in an airplane. But it can be limiting when you try to put more gear in it. Also, it only has top and side access, so you never really have full access to all of your gear at once. And if you access it from a side, and what you need is on the other side, well, you have to take everything out or waste time closing it and then turning it on the other side. And this bag is also quite heavy, even when it's empty. Like I said, it's very well balanced, but if you have weight restriction on your travel, it will limit the amount of gear you can take with you. I still sort of like it and I use it a lot, but I like it and I don't love it anymore. Also, it is now a very well-known brand and a very well-known camera bag, and I'll talk about why this is a disadvantage for me in a minute. Now, the other camera that I use quite often is a very cheap Amazon Basics one. I bought it for less than £50 years ago, and I still use it very often. It can easily hold 2 of my Fujifilm bodies, 4 or 5 lenses, and quite a few accessories. And you can see it's quite compact, and everything is well organized and safely stored, with all the padded separators. The one thing I don't particularly like is that the side pockets are quite tight, and sometimes it's hard to even put a bottle in them. They can hold a tripod on one side because they have these straps, but not a water bottle. But the rest of the bag really never failed me, and I've had it for quite a few years now, and this is the one that I often take out with me when I'm in London, shooting either in the street or do some cityscape or sunset, sunrise around. And like I said, it's really cheap. But it's not going to be the only surprisingly good cheap product that I'll show you in this list today. But yeah, really useful. Everything is very well organized. And the front pocket is quite large as well. So I put the accessories and the filters. No problems at all with this bag. But my everyday bag is this Osprey bag. It's a travel bag, not a camera bag, which means that the gear is not well organized inside and may not be too safe because there's no padded inserts. But it can become very well organized in the way I pack it, which is kind of in layers. But it's very light, has very good pockets and inserts inside. It expands if needed, and is mostly rainproof. All the zips are covered. And I can also easily add a rain jacket here in the front. But the fact that this is not a camera bag is exactly the reason why this is my everyday carry and main bag when I travel. Because you see, I travel solo a lot, and sometimes in rough places as well, where I had to fear for my life staring at the tip of a knife. Yet not a very pleasant experience at all. So I try as much as I can to avoid screaming pro photographer when I walk around. This bag is totally unassuming, and it's the only one of the three that allows to put the tripod inside. Normally, all camera bags, they have space for the tripod outside, and having a tripod, especially a large one, obviously means photographer and photography equipment in the bag. So this is the main one I use all the time. And when I travel, sometimes I fold it in my main luggage, and then I use the Peak design as a cabin bag, because the gear is more safe this way when it travels. But this always comes with me. So, a photographer traveling with no expensive camera bags, well, aside of the Peak design one. But my gear is quite compact, really, which is the reason why I chose the system that I use all the time, which is Fujifilm, and so I can get away with normal bags easily. But speaking of gear, let's move on now. Well, since I got the water here, actually I do have the wine as well. So gear, like I just said, I use Fujifilm system, which is very compact and produces amazing quality. Now I know it's not full frame, but I don't necessarily need full frame for the things that I do. And frankly, the experience I get from Fujifilm and the colors that I get from Fujifilm are a very good reason for me to use this system. So my main camera today is the Fujifilm X-T4, which is the one I'm using to film myself right now. And it's great because I can switch between stills and video in a millisecond. I just need to switch a lever. So I'm ready with any situation that presents in front of me. And so when I'm out in the street, I only have this body, but whenever I travel, I also bring a backup with me, which is my old Fujifilm X-T2. Now I learned the hard way to bring a backup with me when I was in Porto in Portugal, because I had just received this exact X-T2, but it had a problem with the shutter, so at very fast speed, the shutter would get stuck, and so basically I couldn't use the camera there. So now I always bring a backup with me. And the backup can also be useful for when you are in a sandy place or in a dirty place where it's not ideal to swap lenses, or in difficult places like you're flying on an helicopter and you really don't want to swap lenses when you're in an helicopter. So bring two bodies with two different lenses attached and then you're good to go. Anyway, the other thing that is really good for me is I talked about safety in travel earlier. And these Fujifilm cameras are really small and they have this sort of retro look that seems to be a bit less appealing to thieves, which is absolutely great. Now when it comes to lenses, it really depends on what I want to shoot and the situation I'm in. When I shoot street photography, for example, I almost exclusively use prime lenses. I use the 23mm f2, which is equivalent to a 35mm on full frame, and I also take the 35mm and the 90mm f2. If I want to get closer to subjects, I use the 90mm, which is actually my favorite lens in the Fujifilm system, not because it's sharper than others, but because it's very flattering and it has real character. I really love this lens. And this is equivalent to 135mm on a full frame. Now, by the way, if you want me to review all these lenses and my Fujifilm system, let me know in the comments. And like this video and subscribe to this channel. Maybe even hit the notification button so you'll know whenever I publish a new video. Now let's go back to the lenses. So these three are the ones that I mostly use in the street in this order. So the 23 is the one that I absolutely use all the time. And actually, if I only had to take one lens with me, it would be this one. Anyway, my setup is different when I travel because I don't want to bring all the lenses with me. So I take the ones that are more flexible and more versatile. So when I travel, I take zoom lenses with me. I take the 10-24, which is equivalent to 15-36. And it's a really good lens for landscape and cityscape, but because it reaches 24mm, I can use it as a street photography lens as well. And I've done that a few times, just not to have to swap lenses. It's not perfect, because it tends to distort a little bit on the edges of the frame, but when you know its limitation and you know how you can work around them, then it's a great lens to have and a great lens to travel with. Same as the 55-100 on the opposite end. Now I love this lens. It's very sharp, but most of all, I like how compact it is. This reaches 200mm. Normally on a DSLR, 200mm is almost twice the size of this lens. So again, great zoom lens to travel with because it doesn't take too much space. And the quality is really good. Now, neither the 10-24 or the 55-100 are weather sealed, which is why I take a third lens with me, which goes in between these two, and it's again the 35mm. So if it rains, then I put the 35 on and I go around in the street. And because these are very compact lenses, I take sometimes the 23 as well, because this would allow me to still be able to shoot cityscape because it's wide enough. And like I said, it's also my most used lens. So if I can, I take these with me as well. Now, one more important item in my bag is a tripod. Now, I don't use tripods when I do street photography, but I use them for landscape, cityscape. And there's a very good tripod that I've been using for the past 5 to 7 years, I think. And it's now incredibly cheap on Amazon. And I'll put the link in the description below if you want to check it. But as a travel tripod, I'm really happy with it. And I've recommended this to many people. The nice thing is it's light because it's carbon fiber. And it folds really small, so it fits inside my Osprey bag. But when it's fully extended, it almost reaches the height of my eyes, so that's perfect for me. Now there's one thing where this tripod struggles, and that's a very windy situation. So this tripod doesn't really like wind. There's not much I can do when I travel, because that's the only tripod that I take with me. But when I'm in London, I take my heavy and sturdy Manfrotto tripod whenever there's wind and I want to shoot cityscape and a sunrise or a sunset. That's actually my main studio tripod, and I've had it for years. I was actually using this very tripod 15, almost 20 years ago when I had my studio in Florence. This is as heavy and as steady as you like it, so it's perfect for very windy situations. And you may have seen me in other videos carrying it on my shoulder when I vlog. That's the one. The one that I always carried with me is this Manfrotto Pixie Evo, which is also the tripod that I use when I vlog with the X-T4, because I put the camera on this panoramic head and then I extend my arm and film myself. And it's quite light, so it's always in my bag. And when I need to use my iPhone, I use something that packs in my wallet, and is this pocket tripod, which folds, and just sit the smartphone on it, and then you put it back in the wallet. So last but not least, let's talk about accessories. Now, this looks like a lot, but most of it actually fits in the front pocket of my bag. And aside maybe of the drone, pretty much everything here is part of my essential kit. Starting from the noise-cancelling headphones, these are absolutely paramount when I travel. Especially in airplanes, I wouldn't call them life-savior, but close to it. Then of course I always have extra batteries with me and one or more battery packs. Then a small Allen key, and there's a few screwdrivers and Allen keys. This is really useful. Then there's a remote shutter, so that in some situations I don't have to press the trigger, which causes movement into the camera. I have some cleaning stuff here, so the rocket blower to remove dust from the sensor, and then some wet wipes for the lenses. Of course, now that I vlog more extensively, I always have a light with me. Then there's a small pouch like this one that contains all the little items like memory cards, as well as something really useful, which is this, I don't know how they're called actually, but rubber elastic thing, which can be incredibly useful because you can attach pretty much everything to anything that you see around. It can be the mini tripod to a branch, it can be piecing together a broken item. These are very useful and incredibly cheap on Amazon. And of course, because I am a sort of a Peak Design fanboy, I always have the capture clip attached to my bags, so I can attach the camera to it. This goes onto the bag shoulders, and then you can just attach the camera to it, so you have your hands free. And my main wrist clutch, which is what I use to hold the camera in my hand all the time. And to every camera that I own, I always attach an L bracket, so this doesn't go into my bag, it actually attaches to the camera, which is really useful when you put the camera on a tripod to switch between landscape and portrait very quickly. And of course some filters. Now I used to use a lot of filters in the past, now I only have the NDs, and these are the Lee filters. So I have the little stopper, the big stopper and the super stopper, which are ND6, ND10 and ND15, and of course the mount. This is still the old mount. I want to switch to the new one, but I'm still very happy with how this works, so I'm not in a rush. And this strange thing here is actually pretty helpful, because sometimes filters, not these ones but the round one, they get stuck onto the lens. So with this clip I can actually put this around the lens and then unstuck the filter from the lens. So I always have one or two with me. And last but not least, to be able to edit my pictures when I travel, I use two dongles, one for the iPhone, one for the iPad, so I can transfer the pictures to the iPad or to the iPhone very quickly, so that I can edit them and publish on social media straight away. And one extra thing that didn't fit in this chaos is my gimbal for the iPhone. Now I don't always use this, sometimes I just hold the iPhone in my hand, but when I need a gimbal I use this Giant Smooth Q2 that I bought last year. It's very small, the motor is really good, and so when I need it, this is the one that I pack in my bag. And when I need to edit, I use the iPad Pro. It's really good for editing, not just photos but videos as well. And I use the pen to edit my photos in Lightroom or Snapseed, and my videos on LumaFusion and Premiere Rush. And the apps on the iPhone and the iPad are really good, so they can do pretty much all that desktop software does, minus a few exceptions. But to edit on the go, they're absolutely perfect. So this is it. All that's in my camera bag. Let me know in the comments if you found something useful, and if you intend to buy any of the products that I just described, I'll put a link to most of them down in the description below. Also, let me know if you would like to see more gear reviews, and I'll do it. This channel is here to help you. And until next time, bye!